Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Simplexive, and today I'm going to be showing you guys what the best settings are in Valorant that will give you an instant advantage and hopefully increase your win rate too. Settings are such an important part of competitive shooters like Valorant as they give you even more control over your experience in game. As a result of this, the settings are pretty complicated and can be hard to digest or understand. Don't worry, because that's what I'm here for. If you're still playing on default settings, then get ready to change quite a few things, because the default settings are, well, they're pretty bad. Like seriously, why is sprinting toggled to always on in the default settings? Anyways, let's head right over to Valorant so I can show you guys the settings you should be using. But before that, here's a message from our sponsor. Do you guys like epic setups?
Nope.
Mission.
Bruh. Bruh.
I'm proud to announce that at 100 subscribers, I will be releasing official Simplexive content of this epic setup right here. First off, starting in general settings, the first thing that you see a lot of people change is the enemy highlight color. Purple and yellow are pretty common choices for this, as they pop out a bit more, making enemies easier to see, but this one is really just about personal preference and whatever works for you. Next, let's take a look at mouse settings. I'm not going to touch on mouse sensitivity too much here, as it could be a topic for an entire video itself, but I will give you a couple tips. First off, you want to start your mouse on the left side of your mouse pad, and you want to move it all the way over to the right side. So depending on the size of your mouse pad, of course, you should do at least a 180-degree turn. Usually you want to get a bit more than that, and you should do no more than 2 full 360 turns. Personally, I like to be in the middle at 1 full turn or 1 360. It really is a matter of preference, so just try it out and see whatever works best for you. After mouse settings, the next important setting is your minimap. I definitely recommend trying a fixed minimap if you haven't already, as it's less distracting and disorienting than a rotating one. I also like to have keep player centered off. Minimap size and zoom is a personal preference, but most people seem to like the minimap zoomed in a bit. One setting you want to make sure is on is the vision cones, as this will show you what your teammates are looking, so you're not holding the same angles on accident or whatever, so definitely leave these on. That is really all of the important stuff for general, so I'd leave the rest as default, unless of course your personal preference is to change some of the less important settings. Next, we're going to go over to the control tab. For movement, I'd leave most of it as is, honestly, but something that is super important to make sure is that your default movement mode is set to walk. I believe like the default setting sets it to run, and you don't want to always have to be holding shift to walk, because more often than not you'll be walking. Toggle crouching is something you may want to turn on, but that just depends on your playstyle and preference. I personally do not have toggle crouch on, so for equipment you can choose whether you like to toggle aim or hold aim. Usually, most of the time, people have this set as a toggle, but it won't hurt you in game to have this one way or the other. Personally, when I'm opping, I just like to be able to click it once and be scoped in, and then just press it again to get out of scope versus having to hold it down the whole time. Next up, I'm going to skip over communication and interface, as the default settings here are fine. And that means next up are the crosshair settings. My main advice for this is to think simple, as that's what most pros seem to do. There's no one right crosshair, but trust me, there are plenty of wrong ones. I recommend trying out different crosshair configs until you find one that works best for you. I recommend turning the outlines on though, as this will help you see your crosshair against similarly colored backgrounds and areas. As for movement and firing errors, it's up to you whether to leave these on. Honestly, for newer players, I'd recommend leaving these on for a while until you're used to the movement, bloom, and spray mechanics. But once you're used to them, feel free to turn them off, as it can be definitely a distraction in gunfights when your crosshair is moving all over the place. That means finally we have the video settings. Nothing here will give you much of a competitive edge, except for maybe the amount of frames you get, but that really just depends on what computer you're playing on and what it's capable of. So if you're playing with the toaster, maybe cap your frame rate. The other thing I'd recommend turning on is the FPS stat tracker, as this is an easy way to check that the game is running how you want it to. There's nothing really to say about the audio settings, so that brings us to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll be releasing a new video next week, like always, and I don't want you guys to miss a single one. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.